Banditos, what up? Your boy Tux here, and back with the First Descendant intel to make sure you're ahead of the curve. If you're here, you're probably buzzing about Season 3 Breakthrough, and specifically, how to get your hands on Nell, the new Descendant who's shaking things up with her telekinetic powers. She's not just another character, she's a game changer for crowd control and debuff strategies, pulling enemies like a magnet and setting up massive damage chains with her 100% weak point hits. I've sunk almost 2,000 hours into this game since release, and I've had a chance to experience Season 3 in full ahead of launch, thanks to the devs at Nexon providing me access. So expect a barrage of content from me, downloading all I learned for everything you need to know. Let me tell you, unlocking Nell is different from how we've ever unlocked a Descendant before, and you can actually waste a lot of time farming the wrong missions if you're not careful. Today, I'm walking you through exactly how to unlock her for free, step by step, so you can skip the frustration and jump straight into dominating with her. So stick around because I'll share some practical farming tips that'll cut your unlock time down to the fewest possible hours. And we'll touch on everything you need for her build. Let's do this.
Wait, did we just become best friends? So nice to meet you. I think you're cool.
First off, understand that Nell, like most Descendants, can be unlocked two ways: the paid route or the free research path. The paid option is straightforward. You head to the in-game store, look under the Descendants tab, and purchase her directly with Caliber, the premium currency. But honestly, if you're watching this, you're likely aiming for that free method to save those resources for cosmetics or battle pass tiers. The free way involves researching her at Anais and Albion, and it's where the farm strategy comes in. To start, go into your library, head to the Descendant option, and you'll see Nell listed there once Season 3 drops on August 7th. Here is where you can see you need 4 key items: Nell's enhanced cells, her stabilizer, her spiral catalyst, and her code. Now, gathering these materials is the meat of the process, and it's designed to push you into the new Season 3 content for that fresh feel. You're gonna need basic materials and a blueprint to craft each Nell part. Each blueprint comes from caches you earn from specific activities tied to the new zone called Axion Plains, which opens up right at the season's start. Axion Plains is this eerie high-tech wasteland with a new aggressive bogus mob called Legion of Breach. Perfect for Nell's theme. To get started efficiently, prioritize unlocking Axion Plains by completing the introductory Season 3 questline from Seneca at headquarters. It'll take about 15 minutes and rewards you with some starter resources too. Once in Axion Plains, use your scanner constantly to highlight resource nodes. It's a habit that speeds things up by spotting hidden caches. Mobility is key here since Axion Plains is massive, spanning areas that take ages to traverse on foot. Think fields 3 times larger than previous zones, where running patrols could eat up 20 minutes without help. That's why you should grab the basic hover bike right away. It's a login reward for Season 3, so just boot up the game after the update drops, claim it from your inbox, and equip it in the vehicle slot. This standard model cuts travel time by 50% with its steady speed and basic hover, letting you zip between objectives without wasting energy on sprints or grapples. You can upgrade it later for boosts and jumps, but the base version is plenty for early farming and it keeps you efficient enough from the jump. I will have another video on hover bikes, versions, and upgrades coming to you later. Alright, so let's break down the materials one by one, starting with Nell's enhanced cells. As an example, everything you need drops primarily from almost every mission in Axion Plains. You need to farm 3 basic materials, an enhanced cell blueprint, and 200,000 in gold to craft the enhanced cell. If you've been playing for a while, this formula might sound familiar, but here's where it's different. There are 2 paths to getting Nell's blueprints with spoil boxes. There is a blueprint loot and an arcade loot. Blueprint loot is a more generalized blueprint cache that has a larger pool of blueprints, thus a smaller chance of getting a targeted item like the enhanced cell blueprint. In this cache, you have a 6.25% chance of getting it. The arcade loot is the fastest path. This cache provides an equal 25% chance of getting one of the 3 blueprints or Nell's code, where before, the way they did things, you would have to choose between 1 or 2 activities to farm a specific blueprint. With Nell, you are farming for all of her blueprints and her code at the same time, hoping you minimize duplicate drops. Now, pay attention because this is the confusing part. Not every mission delivers arcade loot, and the ones that do drop it at a 5% chance. All the missions deliver the blueprint loot at a 20% chance. So to farm the arcade loot, you are looking for the missions marked with the fangs. These are called operations. Expand the operational area details to see the additional rewards possible by completing this mission. These aren't guaranteed, and the chance of getting the drop is listed at 5% for the arcade loot. So it's possible to get multiple key drops for other things while farming for Nell. For example, you can get the trigger modules, the Orca loot, which is a hover bike, the Eraser blueprints, which is a new weapon, or even the blueprint loot, which is a crack at getting all of the above. You can even get a blueprint loot and an arcade loot to drop at the same time. This would be your most optimal drop. The thing about these missions is that they are on a timer, so you have a limited time to farm the mission. There is also a timer on the boss entailed. This does not mean there's a limited time on farming these components. There's no time limit to complete the mission. You don't have to speedrun it. The developer added the timer as a way to vary the farming method while driving player traffic to the missions so you can team up easily. We all remember farming Void Vessel and Sigma Sector until our eyes bled out. Well, now your missions will change. Even if you're playing the same mission, the bosses will rotate too. These missions aren't like dungeons. It's more open world-like. So you can jump into a mission at any time and find another Descendant has already made progress. So you join them to defeat the boss and get your loot. Rinse, repeat. It took me roughly about 8 minutes to do these solo. I'm sure this time gets faster as you play more or if you're running with a team. Here's the deal. Axion fights are cranked up. The mission's girth and difficulty alone are going to make Nell a longer farm than some others. And because you require RNG to get the loot box, then RNG to get you what you need when you open that loot box, the RNG on top of RNG is also going to add some time to unlocking Nell. That's no different than what we had before. Previous Descendants, we'd have to farm an outpost or a mission to get the pattern and then go fight a boss to crack that pattern for a chance of getting the blueprint that we needed. RNG on top of RNG. Although I pay a lot of attention to RNG in this game, and I'm a critic where criticism is needed, I'm not sure this is a bad thing. The last several Descendants were average 2 to 4 hours to unlock, and I have a feeling Nell is going to be around the same time frame. And I'm not saying Nell is not easy to unlock. On the surface, it seems the stacked RNG and farm loop is going to require a heavy time investment. But from what I experienced in Axion, the reward system is constant and will likely outpace the pity system, but you should be using that too. On top of that, as what appears to be an insurance, the devs seem to be mailing you these caches as a participation bonus for being in Axion. So although you might not always strike gold on Nell, you might be making progress on unlocking something, whether it's your hover bike, the new ultimate weapon, or getting those valuable trigger mods. In the end, the question has to be asked: is my time as a player being respected? And although time is needed to confirm, from what I can see so far, I would venture to say yes. The juice seems to be worth the squeeze farming in Axion. I hate to say this, but the paid route to getting Nell might cause redundancy and waste. Now, this is speculation, so I can't say for sure, but when you unlock Nell, if they don't pull Nell's blueprints from the drops, then it's going to lead to a lot of waste. Because if you buy Nell up front and then you're in there farming for your Orca or the Eraser or anything else, you're going to be accidentally accumulating Nell parts too. So in my opinion, you might as well earn her the old-fashioned free way. Okay, before we jump into materials, I want to quickly add that be prepared with your best Descendant in Axion. I found Serena with their air superiority to be extremely helpful against the overwhelming odds and hordes. Those mini bosses are no joke in Axion. Now let's take a look at the basic materials. Some of these are new, most of them have been around for a while, and you might not even need to farm them. The new material for Nell is the Entropium, and you're going to need 100 units per blueprint, 300 in all. The best drops of Entropium come from monsters in Axion missions, but these also drop from Axion supply caches scattered around. I recommend farming both but you will be gathering these as you farm for her blueprints anyways. This is the key new material for Nell, and I experienced about 15 to 20 drop per run, so expect up to 20 runs to have enough materials to fully craft Nell. All the other materials have been around, so be sure to track how many you actually need, if any, so you don't over farm. Good news is that these materials will drop in Axion as well as other destinations, so you can get started farming for Nell right now, even before Season 3 drops. You need 279 Helion. This drops in Fortress or Axion. You need 496 Shape Memory Alloy. Get it in Axion or Hagios. 515 Metal Accelerant for Nell Stabilizer from Sterile Land or Axion. 330 units of Hardener. You can also get this in Vespers for the Spiral Catalyst. 540 Monomolecular Extractors found in Agna. And 474 of Reverse Charging Coils, which can be also farmed in Fortress or Axion. Once you have what you need for a part, begin the research as soon as possible because they take 8 hours to complete per part. Once all the parts are materialized, you can use Nell's code to research Nell fully. Make sure you have a character slot for her by the time she's ready, as well as a loadout slot too. With all 4 items in hand, return to Anais, pay the 400,000 in gold, and then initiate the final research. It takes 16 hours real time, but you can speed it up to instant with their research accelerator if you're willing to spend. While waiting, don't twiddle your thumbs. You still have lots to do to get her ready. Start by farming her 2 Transcendent modules for her build. Shattered Heart changes Gaze of Abyss, her 4th skill, so that it shoots breach spikes. Essentially, she becomes more of a skill build than a weapon platform this way. The other transmod is Restored Heart that buffs your team. The fastest way to get these is to collect and save all duplicate Transcendent mods in your inventory. Start doing this in the days leading up to a new season or new module drops. When the mod becomes available, head over to this dude and combine mods to roll the dice. It's not a guaranteed, but the more you have, the better your odds. In this single pool, you can have all of the new mods. If you didn't get it with your Transcendent mods, you can drop down and combine the ultimate versions for a chance too. It's not going to pay out as well, so not my favorite way to do it. If you need to farm Nell's mods the old-fashioned way, great. During the demo, it didn't list where these will drop, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be in Axion. Now, you need to farm her external components. It's the purple set, called Ballistic Tracker. These give her weak point damage and a ricochet effect to provide Nell AoE damage. The only way to get these is by defeating Wall Crasher, which is an 8-man boss fight. He appears once per hour in Axion. There's a timer and a heads-up call, so don't miss your chance. You can get the page even when you're not in Axion and jump into the fight from Albion. This boss fight will drop several other things you're going to need as well. Now get her Reactor. She shines with non-attribute and fusion for her weapon platform, but you will also want a non-attribute tech reactor for her skill build when using her Shattered Heart transmod. For her weapons, probably hand cannon and tactical rifle. For the attributes, I'd choose skill cost and cooldown and maybe range. Get her trigger modules. Deeper guide on this soon, but you will likely be unlocking these along the way as you farm for Nell anyways. Every mission drops these at a 25% chance, and the operation gives you another 25% chance. Trigger modules allow you to customize your build with additional damage or utility. For Nell, keep an eye out for Death by 1,000 Cuts to add Meteor Strikes to her first skill, or Power Beyond that adds tow and enemy outgoing damage reduction. This full arcade jacket that gives you special bullets that add skill damage to enemies hit near the target, and Gap in Time that gives you additional skill damage based on your cooldown reduction. Tons of options. We're gonna have a lot of fun in our future. Okay, let's do a quick rundown on her full kit. So her first skill is called Breach Projection. Fires a barrage of breach shards, dealing damage to hit enemies. It looks more like a telekinetic push, but it's really important with this skill that you partner it with the Sieve Scan. If you scan first and then hit them, you're getting an additional 100% damage plus a burst damage of skill power by 511 by default. The max expandable range on this is 200%. It's actually not that great, the range, and you can sometimes miss. But what's really important about the scan thing is that it decreases the cooldown of Gaze of the Abyss by 0.25 seconds. And there's 3 shots per push, so you're about 3/4 of a second there. Gaze of Abyss is her 4th skill. Why don't we just jump straight to that one next? The duration is 14 seconds, and it's going to give her some amazing weak point damage of 35%. So here's the Axion part again. On hit of a Axion scanned target with Breach Shard, the Gaze of the Abyss duration increases by 0.8 seconds up to a maximum of 24 seconds duration increase. And then when you defeat a scanned target, the duration increases by 0.4 seconds. So the duration becomes very long with this. Nell's second skill is called Breach Link. Basically a big area of effect. And when enemies are inside of it, they're going to build stacks. So they're going to get a movement speed reduction per stack and an incoming weak point damage per stack. The duration is 15 seconds on this, and it's got a 300% max expandable range. So the continuous damage of the anti-gravity field that it creates is skill power by 155%. So you can retrieve the breach, and that's going to give you a big chunk of your cooldown back. You also have some shield recovery, and then there's a burst damage explosion with skill power by 2000% modifier, which is huge. But once your breach link is down, you can then use her number 3. So her third skill, Gravitic Reversal, is only available when Breach Link has been deployed. So this is going to detonate that breach, causing a Gravitic Reversal, basically sucking them in. It's a tow, and it's going to cause a burst damage of skill power by 2100% modifier. This expandable range is 300%. Okay, here's the ideal play loop for Nell. First, you want to activate her number 4, Gaze of Abyss. Then you want to drop her ring for the debuff. Use her number 3 to pull all the enemies together. Then you scan the enemies and hit them with your number 1. And finally, follow up with those very strong weak point hits. By doing it this way, you ensure those enemies are receiving the maximum stacks from her second skill, the Breach Link, which, remember, is an additional 35% incoming weak point damage when they have all 5 stacks. This also thins the herd so that Nell doesn't have to use as much ammo, thus decreasing the amount of reloads she does. You can also scan just after you activate your Gaze of the Abyss. This way, they can start taking that tick damage a little bit earlier. I put together a build you can use as a template to get you started. I didn't spend a lot of time tinkering with the arcade tuning, so there might be some more optimal mutant cell slots to tinker with. Otherwise, I was pretty happy with the setup. Here's what you need to know about Nell out of the gate. For her weapon builds, the most important thing she needs: range. She can reach 300% range, so plan on adding 200% to reach max. If you don't build into range, she feels extremely underwhelming. Skill haste. Even with all cooldown mods, her Breach Link debuff skill is at 7.7 seconds with a 15-second duration. And Gaze of the Abyss has a 28-second cooldown. And Axion is open field fighting mostly, so there is a lot of ground to cover. But if you hit scan targets with her number 1 skill, you can take off 0.25 seconds from your Gaze of Abyss. Great, but more cooldown where you can add it is going to be good. Also, very important, depending on how you're using her kit, don't overstack weak point damage on your weapon. Gaze of Abyss gives her 35% weak point damage. Her Breach Link gives another 7% per stack. There's 5 stacks for an additional 35% weak point damage. That's 70% right there. Weapons like the Nazistras and the Perforator are already coming with 5x plus as a base for their weak point damage. So you can easily exceed your cap and waste very vital damage slots. Don't add duration. Her number 4 is her biggest weapon damage buff, and you can extend the duration up to 24 seconds on it just by using her kit proficiently, which will come in time. There are 2 ways to extend her Gaze of the Abyss: hitting Axion scan targets with Breach Shards, which is her first skill, for 0.8 seconds duration, or defeating a scan target for 0.4 seconds duration. Basically, use your scanner. MP is heavily consumed, especially if you're solo in Axion. There are so many ads in Axion, you're going to always be using her skills. MP Collector or skill cost reduction are great ideas. Because of all the ads in Axion, reload time is more of an issue than in other content. So add reload modifiers for Nell so she spends more time shooting than reloading. You don't really need skill damage added to the build because her kit is already built heavily in that department. Breach Link has a 2000% modifier, and Gravitic Reversal has a 2100% modifier. Her 4th skill, Gaze of the Abyss, is for weapons, so no skill damage needed. Her 1st skill, Breach Projectile, on the surface looks like it would benefit from power, but it's not as weak as it seems at first glance. The base is skill damage at 801% modifier, and that picks up an additional 511% burst damage modifier. With all of that being said, Shot Focus is a great mod to make your weapon damage even stronger. Since your skills won't need power, they need utility. Nell needs movement speed while using her weapons, just sort of a sitting duck. If you can find ways to add that either through weapons or arcade tuning, you're helping yourself out. You'll see what I mean when you're in there. Because Nell is slowed down with all of her casting, HP Collector is a good idea because you are taking lots of damage, especially from range in Axion. Okay, prep Nell's weapons. Her special power is indeed weak point damage, and in Axion, you are going to need AoE support for sure. So you're looking for weapons that can focus on weak point damage and that provide AoE. Without AoE, you're going to struggle. The Perforator is great, and I recommend running 2 cores set to rate of fire with a rate of fire mod. I find with 3 rate of fire cores, the weapon gets stuck pointing at the sky and is basically useless. But maybe PC players have a different experience? The Malevolent is still very useful with Nell for the heavy mobbing. There's just a lot of ads. Nazistra's Devotion will be nice for heavy elites and bosses, and Greg's Reversed Fate will be excellent at helping against the mobs. I have a feeling that Greg's Reversed Fate might be the best weapon for Nell because of RPMs, sustained damage, burst damage, and the area of effect that it actually has. Although the Perforator is stronger, there's going to be a lot more reloading entailed, and that's already a problem for Nell. You can begin prepping these weapons right now. So what do I think about Nell? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's a big question. First, her Transcendent mods weren't working for me during the preview, so I can't say much there. But I think her kit without those mods are the way to go anyways. I spent most of my time solo with her, and it impacted my impressions on Axion dramatically. I struggled to complete missions and died frequently. I was like, wow, Axion is hard, which is also something I actually look forward to. With Nell, it was a little too hard. Now, I have to be fair and say I didn't have the perfect reactor and didn't fine-tune the weapon cores or mods and just went with what the devs had provided there. That would have made a difference. That being said, her casting is slow and frequent enough for her to get dogpiled. As soon as I switched to Serena, Axion became a lot easier. And it's not just because Serena is like the strongest descendant. Both of these are weapon descendants and both have AoE, but it was the reload time and mobility that gave Serena the real edge. And Serena doesn't spend so much time casting her skills that slow her down. To improve Nell, she needs a reload buff bad added to her kit. She needs more speed while aiming, and her casting has to be way more efficient. Don't let my feedback drag you down. Nell is still really cool, and I had a lot of fun playing with her. Alright, so that's the complete unlock guide for Nell in Season 3. If you followed along, you should have her ready in no time with focused play, and hopefully I saved you from a headache having to try to figure out what the hell is going on in Axion. It's going to seem confusing at first, but it'll come to you. All right, drop in the comments, what weapon do you plan on pairing with Nell as her primary? See you in Axion. Tux out. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Tuxedo Bandito, and if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the good stuff I have coming for you. And if you like content like this, be sure to check out the video I have recommended for you right here. If you have anything you would like me to cover, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make things possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be the same without you.
When you buy or download anything for the First Descendant, be sure to use Tux's creator code to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Wait, did we just become best friends?